I think we can session. There's still a bit of an echo. But yeah, my name's Andy. I'm from Speedinvest, one of the co-hosts of the Marketplace Conference, and I focus on industrial tech investment. And I have the pleasure to moderate the session with Christian from Schüttflix, Jordan from NEA, on transforming an antiquated industry. Today we're talking about marketplaces in construction. Christian, I would. There's still an echo. Christian, can you use headphones?
I don't have any here, but I can go on mute if that.
Yeah, I think that helps. Maybe you can start with a short intro on basically like really a short 1-minute pitch on what Schüttflix does, and then Troy maybe 1 minute, and then we jump straight into the topic and discuss onboarding clients in construction marketplaces.
Sorry, since I went on mute. So, yeah, quick introduction of what Schüttflix does. We're a bulk materials marketplace. So we run a supply chain in session where we figure out who the best provider would be for your bulk material, and we deliver just like an Uber does. So you can track and trace the delivery while it's on its way. We do a price comparison beforehand, and the beauty about our market is there's around 1.5 times the number of vehicles in the market if you compare it to Uber. And every vehicle does around 6 times the revenue than an average Uber driver. So we're talking about a size 10 times larger than what Uber is addressing.
Perfect. I'm Jordan Shapiro. I'm a tech investor at NEA New Enterprise Associates. We're one of the largest and most active venture capital firms in the world. So we've been around 42 years. We manage about $25 billion in committed capital, and we've invested in just about 1,000 companies over time.
Okay, so when we talk about construction, right, it's at the moment, Jordan, you can say it as well, in the US and also in Europe, a pretty hot topic in VC. It's 10% of GDP in Europe, around 7% in the US, but it always has this reputation that it's a very antiquated industry. It is lacking behind. It's not very digitized. And I would ask you guys both, and start with Christian again, on why you think this is the case, why do you think construction has such a bad reputation on not being digitized at all?
The reputation because it's so easy. People love what we do because it's we've taken shots. Construction kind of skipped all the intermediate steps. They didn't go through all the iterations of working with emails and all that stuff. We're going straight from literally phone and fax over to a fully digital process, which is the beauty of that. And whenever people ask me of why the time is right now, why it's now the right time to go into construction, for me it's pretty simple. WhatsApp did everything that had to be done, meaning every dude in construction now has a login to either iTunes or Google Play, and that allows them to download apps. And WhatsApp actually leveled the entire field for us, that now everybody has got access and has taken away the hesitation, because everybody wants to send each other funny videos and pictures. That's exactly what the construction guys are all about now, and we're piggybacking onto that. And now we have all chances in the world to provide fully digital solutions to those guys.
Yeah, I think Andreas covered the massive TAM here. The other specific features I point out about the construction industry are that, first of all, it's super fragmented. So take, for example, construction contractors, 80% of the market has firms that are fewer than 10 people, and the top firms control maybe 5% of the market or less. And then it's also an industry that's based on razor thin margins. So EBIT in the average construction firm is your profit is about 5.5% of sales. So with that, you don't see a ton of experimentation necessarily historically in terms of technology, but you also get this super opaque and fragmented market that yields itself very well to marketplace companies coming into the market and starting to disrupt how people interact. So I think the industry, like Christian mentioned, is actually super well primed to have new tech and venture-backed companies come into the market.
And And what about distribution channels? Because you said, Jordan, you mentioned it. It's a very fragmented space, and Christian also in your case, right? It's the small mom and pop shops, like having 5 trucks, small companies, small stone pits, for example. In your case, have you seen what distribution channels or acquisition channels for your clients actually work, and maybe give us a bit of a, let's say, sales hacks of how you acquire the clients?
So we're combining, well, there's 3 players for us in the industry that we're trying to connect. One side is the customer, the other side is the supplier of sand and gravel, the quarry owner, and then there are the carriers. If you look at the supply side, so what we call them our partners, suppliers and carriers, you're not going to get those guys via SEO and SEM. Most of those guys aren't online. They're not even trying to go online. So we have for that case, for the supply side, we have a field force out there that actually drives up to them and onboards them onto our channel. And all we need is 5 minutes of their time to actually explain to them that it's a great field to get into, and that all we're doing is we're providing additional revenue. If you want to know a sales hack for us, our sales hack is we pay everybody immediately. So immediately means same day. So everything that we pick up today, we will be paying tonight, meaning it's in your bank account tomorrow. That's by far the best money spent on advertisement, because it's such a trust building exercise. And there's a lot of people, come back to me and say, Christian, that's crazy. You invested capital, and what are you doing financially? And like, hey, we're running a just shy of 7-digit revenue per month number right now. So we're talking about €500,000 or dollars in invested capital, but it's not spent, right? It's just, we've advanced it. So when I think about sales hack and building trust with suppliers and carriers, it's about paying fast, because that's one thing that those guys aren't used to. And the feedback I've gotten from some of our partners there, carriers and suppliers, is holy crap, you guys pay us so fast, it's in our bank account before our clerk even knows what you guys picked up from our system. That's for us, that's a huge sales hack for us.
And maybe 2 questions on that, because you said you build up the sales force. How did you organize that? And then also you said you just need 5 minutes of the time. How do you get the time? How do you tell them that it makes sense for them to onboard on a digital platform?
The one thing, we're doing a lot of brand building, and we go into a lot of brand media. So we do a lot of interviews with the magazines that those guys are used to, and the word of mouth just helps a lot. So the first guy that you get used to, hey, everything Schüttflix picked up from me today was in my bank account the next morning. Like, that information flies, and that's great. And when we first started, the cold calling was very, very tough, and we were it took us, I'd say we got 1 out of 3 calls, we got 1 meeting. Now it's 90+% success rate on calling, and I was like, hey, I thought you guys would never call. So we really it's all about, for us, it's like literally about harvesting. Like, our sales guys, we bought all the addresses for all those supply companies, and there's around 5,000 out there. It's just a matter of, it's just an effort. Just go out there and collect them all. It's just bringing them all on board. And that's just going to take, my expectation, another 6 to 8 months. And then at least for Germany, we're done with that. And then that's the focus on actually entering the customer side. So the sales hack I just talked about was on the producer and carrier side. And on the customer, it's a bit different. And there's 2 segments there as well. One is small, medium enterprise. So small, medium enterprise for us is a classic SEO, SEM game. So literally you optimize around it, and the guy self-registers. And when they're self-registered, they start ordering. And on the other hand, you've got larger corporations on the receiving side, on the customer side, larger corporations, and especially in large infrastructure projects, there's always an RFQ process involved, and they want a clear pricing for, let's say, a year of the project. And that's actually a business that you cannot take the human out of it completely either. So for the small, medium enterprise, for us, it's fully automated from quote to delivery. When you come to the large projects, it's the quotation process. It's still in person because you're part of an RFQ. And when the RFQ is completed and your partner has won that RFQ, then the entire delivery process is then again automated, where we actually take that project and the pricing attached to it, put into the platform, and then the construction company just places their orders against those predefined terms and conditions.
From your end, so what have you seen, maybe your experiences from other portfolio companies? You guys have a very broad portfolio, and what are maybe sales hacks or channels that you guys see to work really well, especially if you talk like such an antiquated industry like construction?
Yeah, so we see a lot, and that's one of the great benefits of being in the VC seat, is that you just get to look at many different ways to go about entering the industry. I've seen companies that bring food and coffee to construction sites in order to improve NPS. Scrappy, but it works in many cases. I've seen machinery rental companies that are really smart about actually offering the right content for companies that they want to join their platform. So it elevates their visibility, elevates the platform's visibility, but also their customers. And then, one of our portfolio companies is a company called Transfix, which is a freight and shipping marketplace. And something that Transfix does very well is offer a lot of ancillary services, particularly with the data that they're able to provide. So if we talk about such an antiquated industry that doesn't necessarily have access to the same tools, deep analytics, and maybe digitization of their analog practices right now, you can actually offer a lot of value as a tech company just coming in and saying, hey, we'll take all of your lumber orders and actually standardize those orders and give them a single product code. Or, hey, we can actually see what your average time to payment normally is on one of these deliveries, and we can help you to decrease that time by using the platform. So all these small tricks that you can provide from the digital side actually are really helpful in enticing companies to come to the platform. Transfix has done a great job of that on pricing, on visibility of where your freight is, but there's a ton of similar learnings, I think, that you can actually apply to the construction industry as well.
I think is that the biggest argument? Is it in terms of trust, or is it maybe in terms of cash flow, as Christian mentioned? What's your experience on that?
Yeah, my experience is that trust is the #1 thing that you need to accomplish for people to start transferring more percentage of their workload onto the platform. But there are many ways to go about that. So that can be a brand thing, but it can also be a visibility thing, like we mentioned, in terms of just tracking of your order. And it's something that's certainly accrued over time.
Cool. I have 2 more quick questions before we go on to Q&A. Sessions are running out of time quite rapidly. Christian, one thing to you. You guys did basically a campaign on social media or Instagram with influencers, which is very untypical for if you look at construction, right? So what are your tips for other companies? Have you guys seen this work, or it's a very unusual approach? So maybe give us 2-3 sentences on tips.
From our perspective, there's 2 challenges to actually get the customers into ordering, right? So the first thing is that in the moment when they need sand and gravel supply, they need to think of us and not the guy that they've been ordering from for the past 2 decades. So you have to be in their head. And if you want to be in their head at the right moment, it's technology adaptation, just like Netflix, right? Like, it's one thing to know that Netflix is the better way of consuming television, but of course everybody still goes on to, no, of course, but a lot of people still go onto TV and zap through their the normal channels before they realize when they find nothing else, they go on Netflix. And that's the same with us. But we, ever since the Netflix button on the remote control showed up, now it's, it's very usual to just go onto Netflix directly. And since we don't have the Schüttflix button in the construction in the excavator yet, we have to do something about it to be really, really present for everybody that's ordering from us. That's one piece, and that's why we did a big brand campaign to actually just place us in the media, and also made our sales on the supply side easier. The second piece is trust. Trust back not only to payment, but trust that we can deliver. So if somebody orders 1 truckload from us or 40 truckloads from us, we need to deliver. And that instant gratification, I think a lot has to do with, I need to have the right marketplace supply and carrier network and strength, so I can deliver even large scale projects. And for me, it's all about that instant gratification, meaning the first time that customer orders, I think in construction, I only have 1 chance. A construction guy is going to try it out, and you have to hit it off the bat, like with the exact first delivery. So we've picked an industry, or actually picked a commodity that's pretty simple. Sand and gravel, you have no damages, you have no returns. And unlike the equipment rental guys that always struggle with inventory management or struggle with damages associated to the rental as it goes back. So there's a lot of churn involved in that industry. And the industry that we picked is really, really simple. Just like Amazon started with books and CDs, because they're always the same size and less return and easy to ship. That's why we started out with sand and gravel, and then we're looking forward to actually expand into other areas. But now it's all about.
I have to stop your pitch here because because I think we're running out of time otherwise. And maybe one quick question for Jordan. Jordan, when you guys evaluate B2B marketplaces, and what are the specific KPIs you guys want to see, or what are specific gross margins you guys want to see? I think that's also very interesting for the audience.
Yeah, so I'll say first of all that there are many types of construction marketplaces. It could be machinery, it could be raw materials, it could be equipment, it could be labor. So it depends, of course, on what type of marketplace we're evaluating. But there are a few things that reign clear across all of those. One is that we care most about revenue. So GMV is a great number to have, obviously demonstrates some penetration into the industry, but take rates vary so much across the industry that revenue that you're seeing off of those take rates is most important. So we'll always start with those questions. CAC payback and retention are particularly important. Is the juice worth the squeeze to get that customer, especially for a bulky industry where there's a lot of, your first order might be really large and might be your only order. You want to make sure that that payback on the first order is particularly clear. And if not, that you're showing a lot of retention of those companies coming, of those customers coming back to the platform. We care about percentage of the job being done on the platform versus off the platform. We'll look at sales efficiency. How much are you able to build the engine, especially as you get close to like a Series B, Series C range. If we're going to put a lot of capital invested into your company to fuel growth, you want to know that that's repeatable growth. So those are all types of things that we'll look for.
And there was also one question from the audience. And what's the range of take rates you guys see in construction? Because we also talked about it, right? If you look at classic construction, it's razor thin margin. So what's the take rates you guys see?
Yeah, it ranges. I don't think you see much above like a 15-20%, and probably on the low end you see something like a 5%. But it of course varies on the model and on the industry, the specific type of company that you're looking at.
And there was also one question before, Christian, for you. And how do you encourage the companies to partner with you versus their potential interest to capture the whole value chain, so to say, on their own?
So if a query, for example, has their own feed, right? So we give them we do a same day 4 business hour delivery window within our state that we started out, and we give exclusivity to the supplier for the first 2 hours. So the first 2 hours, the supplier has the ability to decide that they're gonna do the delivery themselves, and if not, then it goes out into the platform, and the other 500 carriers can pick up on it and actually do the delivery for us.
Do you have any advice on contacting construction companies or potential clients now during COVID, or is this not a topic for you at all at the moment, or how did you guys maneuver through that?
So COVID-19 for us, it's pretty okay. I mean, there's other countries with more lockdown. We're based in Germany. The lockdown hasn't been so substantial, so we've just seen continuous growth throughout COVID-19. But I do know that in other countries with a tougher lockdown, construction sites were closed as well. We did see that, yes, during that time, it wasn't easy for we actually told our sales guys, the outside sales team, to not approach anybody, just do it over the phone for the time being. But besides that, business kept on going. Yeah?
And how do you manage missed expectations? Because for sure there have been maybe bought material at the wrong location or not delivered on time. How do you manage that, and especially in the beginning?
If you look at our order process and the way you actually precisely state so for us, you can mark with a needle on the map on Google Maps exactly where you want that product to be dropped, and you can upload a picture and put a virtual pile into the picture. So we do everything and anything to avoid a misplacement of a load. So I think we've got the strongest by far. I mean, if you compare that to calling somebody and trying to explain to where to drop the sand, we're light years ahead. So if I look, I mean, we've delivered more than 5,000 orders. I don't think we've seen more than 2 or 3 issues. The 2 or 3 issues were that at the query, the wrong product was loaded. That was But delivery itself, I mean, our customers can live track the truck as it approaches. They can subscribe to notifications up on the truck leaving at the courier site or 10 minutes away from the delivery site. The process is just light years ahead of what it used to be. So it's like we don't really have unhappy customers, to be honest.
And there was also a question on how can you highlighted that one of your benefits is basically best price. How can you beat price if they have an existing relationship with vendors they're working with for 20 years, for example, for one of specific construction companies?
Funny, right? So you've got those construction guys, they've been working with the same guy for 20 years and they think they have a great price. No way, like that never happens. So what we do is we figure out where the queries are. The system does that. Then we do by an API, we figure out, so we basically do a fully loaded price to the construction side, which is a combination of the procurement cost for the material plus the transportation cost that we calculate based on distance and time that it takes to deliver it. So we basically do we're a price comparison engine. We're a price comparison engine where we show the best 5 supplier transportation cost combinations. And then the customer can take a decision between those 5, because what we figured out is that the suppliers have brands and they've developed brands over decades. And now we piggyback onto those brands to actually strengthen our own brand. So we've turned Schüttflix into a multi-brand store rather than Schüttflix figure out who the optimal supplier is and it's not even going to tell you where it's coming from. So we've decided to be more open and transparent there and win the customer with convenience and transparency rather than not telling them where the product is coming from.
And last question for sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So last question for you, Jordan. I mean, because there was also the question, how do you decide basically that a specific category has marketplace potential versus, for example, producers or a direct commerce model, and on a more strategic perspective? How do you guys see that?
Well, generally, we're looking at marketplaces in comparison to a few different types of models. So that's more a question of like the underlying technology in the model to meet the problem that you're presenting. And I think it depends, right? We've got in our construction space, we've got a consumer marketplace called Block Renovation that is a perfect marketplace model because the problem that's solving is connecting consumers to general contractors. That's one where clearly you have 2 sides of the market. But we've also got Built Robotics, which is a robotics and automation company in the excavator space. And this is one where you could just help excavator machinery get to the right job site and maybe help labor get into the mix as well. Or you could come in and actually come up with a more technical solution on the robotics side, which is what the company did. And we're evaluating all of these models generally in parallel and saying, all right, for the specific problem, what's going to work best here? Generally, if it's something that you can take a human out of the loop and save a lot of time and create a larger impact on revenue, we're gonna actually look into that.
A lot, guys, and thanks for your time and your insights, and thanks for the audience for the questions. I think we're done. Yeah, the time flies by pretty fast.
Thanks so much.